CU cracked down on fan engagement, and how did it affect the USC game? Coming up on this episode of Alpine Garage Sports. Welcome back to Alpine Garage Sports, folks. My name is Chris. I am your host for this show, and we have a nice, crisp fall day here in Colorado. Finally, it is cooled down below 60 degrees for a high. So this is the part of the year that I love here in Colorado. We're going to sneak up to the mountains, get a last few pictures of some changing leaves of the aspens and stuff like that before the really big snow starts to hit. We couldn't be more exhilarated right now for fall football. We're going to go into what I actually thought was coming after going to the first two games at home. It was a scene that I hadn't seen in a really long time at CU, and I will say probably it even topped some of the more rowdy events that I've been to at Folsom Field. With all of the pandemonium that's going on right now for CU and the fact that we have Coach Prime as our leader and the fact that we are winning in the ways that we are winning, which is a pretty dominant way of doing it after being such a terrible team last year. Us CU Buffs fans, along with the new CU fans that have come to Colorado, have come together to really give Folsom a very, very full experience. It's so awesome to see all of these people, but there is a little bit of an element there that was getting out of hand, and that is primarily in the student section, but it wasn't just the students. It was people going into the student section that weren't students, people that were overcrowding specific areas of the stadium, causing a very poor environment for the others around them. This subject actually hits home with me, and the reason why is because not only was I at these games, and I saw this, but also my daughter, who is a student at CU, was also at these games in the student section. And after the CSU game, we had a heart-to-heart because I was somewhat livid with the stuff that was going on in the student section compared to previous years. But she's been a student there for a couple of years. And she says that this environment, it's always rowdy and it's always fun, and that's what the student section is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. That is the lifeblood of Folsom Field, is the student sections. It gets great camera views, and our students are super vibrant and they're colorful and they want to show up and they give good TV. She said this year was different. She left in the middle of the games at some point because it got to be so bad that they couldn't enjoy the game. With me noticing it and with her noticing it, I knew this was coming, and sure enough, bang, just like that, last week, CU came down with some rules changes for getting into Folsom Field and ticketing. And it specifically targeted the student section because there were so many problems with the student section from the first few games. So these were the rules they put into place. They did away with the QR codes on the tickets, and they went to NRF scanning. And this is to keep from duplicating tickets, I do believe. All of the student sport pass tickets have to go through a special entrance now. And this is going to enable them to not only put more scrutiny there, but also they're going to get a wristband that shows that they belong in the student section, because this is where a lot of the problem was happening, was the overcrowding in the student sections. Student ticket holders must sit in the student section, and nobody else can sit in the student section. And that's where a big part of this problem was. There were so many students in the student section that they were overcrowding to the point where people couldn't move, and they were sitting on the walls on the backside of the student section, and it was causing a really crowded environment, which for some of the students was really fun, and for some of the students it wasn't fun at all. And when you're paying for a ticket, you go to enjoy the game. Why not get what you paid for? And that's what is happening here. And then there are various things that can cause ejection from the game, which is not having your student pass on you, because they're going to ask for student passes. They're going to have extra securities in the aisle, asking people to stay in their seats and not to stand in the aisle, which was another big problem, was people were standing in the aisle and people couldn't get in and out. And if you're found sitting in the student section, you don't have a student ticket, you're going to be asked to leave as well. On top of that, we keep rushing the field. And although it's fun to watch, I get a kick out of it personally, because I love to see us celebrate so wildly because we're so happy about what's going on here at CU right now. And the reality is the Pac-12 actually fines the University of Colorado every time that happens. In the last case with CSU, we got fined as well. I think it was $10,000. It also puts the players and the coaches and all of the media in harm's way, because you have people rushing without looking where they're going, knocking people over, trying to get to the players. With the passion that's happening, it can cause problems. And so that's the reason why even Coach Prime has come out and said, please be respectful, abide by the rules of the University of Colorado, and we're all going to have a good time. So basically everybody's coming out and just saying, hey, let's get this thing under control. We want to be passionate. We want to have record attendance. We want to show that CU has 100% changed from previous years from the standpoint of footballs. But we need to do it in a way that actually shows us in a good light and gives a good fan experience, because on top of everything else, when I go to a CU game, I want a good fan experience. I want to have a great time. And that's the reason why I'm there sometimes for 20 hours. During a football game, because I love to hit the campus, walk the campus, eat at the food establishments, go and have a drink somewhere, talk to other CU fans, talk to students. Here's the question: did I see a difference at the USC game? 100% I did. Not only were the fans not subdued, meaning that we were still as loud as we could possibly be. I even posted on Twitter several shots of when we were down by 21 points. The rally towels came out. People were dancing in the aisles and having a great time. I mean, it's the environment is still at another level compared to previous years. But you could get to the bathroom if you wanted to. You could get around the stadium if you needed to do that, where in previous games there was no way you possibly could. Looking at the student section, it looked like it was under control. There wasn't a whole lot there. Unfortunately, my daughter was not able to make the USC game. But from what I saw and from what I heard from other students in that area, they said that it was a much better environment for the students in that section as well. Now, the one little caveat to that is getting in through the student entrance was a little bit crazy. I actually got caught up in that line unexpectedly. I'm sure that in games coming up, they're actually going to create a little bit more of a controlled environment on that student entrance. But outside of that, everything else, getting a drink, going to the bathroom, everything else was super easy at the USC game compared to the previous games. So we're talking about at this point just fan experience. And as far as I'm concerned, being at CU games for over 40 years, that this environment at the USC game was the best environment this year. It was just as vibrant and passionate as any other week, but it was a lot more controlled. And I do appreciate CU for taking that step, trying to calm down the tensions, and Coach Prime for jumping in there as well and saying, hey, this is an environment for our fans. We want to have our fans have a good time. Everybody behave and understand what the rules of CU are and show us in a good light. I can't wait for the Stanford game. We will see you in the next video. If you haven't already heard, we here.